there's a story in every bottle.
This happened last time, didn't it?
Try that, maybe?
Maybe?
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. You got it.
Try that, maybe?
Maybe.
All right.
Ask everybody if they can hear it.
I think we're back.
Yeah, I think we're back.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
As I was saying before you were going to go into your thing, that the color is really nice out those windows
Right. You
right now in the evening.
always choose the most interesting time to bring up these subjects on these shows. Right when I'm about to introduce ourselves, he's always trying to look up here.
So we're here to mess
It's a
with your
mess.
introduction. So that's why you bring us.
I did ask you if you wanted Chuck and I here today. You know, it's maybe
We're here to derail the conversation.
that might happen.
So anyway, now that we've successfully derailed the conversation, those of you who are arriving for the very first time to our virtual show on Monday nights,
Did it again.
we would love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. And every time we go live on YouTube, you'll get a notice that we're going live. And if you're on Facebook, there's a little bell and you can subscribe on our Facebook channel. And again, if we go live anywhere, and it's usually Monday at 5:30, but it can also be from all parts of the world and on a ski slope or in an ocean.
Underneath the
somewhere.
bridge
Underneath
in
the
Narragansett Bay
Yeah.
on a sailboat.
Yeah.
So please, if
That
you're
was a fun one.
interested in
Can I
what
be
we're
invited
talking
to
about,
that one?
That was a fun one. Yeah.
I was
And
gonna
if
say,
you're subscribing to YouTube,
approaching
it's
3.5
underneath-
years. I have yet to be on the sailboat.
Did you
I know. We got to get that straightened out.
say the subscribe button to YouTube is under your
It's,
foot?
it's down here.
There you go.
Down that way. Right in this little area below my feet is right there.
If you are joining us today, let us know. Put your name in the comments so we know you're here. And if you have any questions during the show, please feel free to ask them. And at the end of the show, if you've enjoyed what you have seen, please like our broadcast. And if you would, share it with your friends who you think might be also interested in what we have to talk about on our Monday afternoon show. So today, speaking of what we have to talk about, we have a special guest, Katie Dobbins. Some of you have met Katie before. We actually had Katie on our show, was it last year or the year before?
Oh, out in the garden.
Summer,
Last
this
year?
past summer.
Yeah.
That was out in the garden, right?
Kind of a
Yeah.
walk around.
Yeah.
Stopped in, chatted with Joe for a little bit. Stopped in, chatted
Yeah.
with Katie for a little
Yep.
bit.
So Katie's been with us before, so some of you may know her, but we're excited to have her back because there's some really exciting things coming to the loft, and largely because of Katie. She's bringing a whole nother series of entertainment to us on Wednesday nights, and we're going to get into
Right.
that a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're here. And Katie brought her guitar. She's going to share with us a tune or two along the way. But I thought the first thing we should do is just learn a little bit about you. How did we get to know each other, and how did you end up being here today?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Katie, and yeah, I grew up in Guilford, so not too far. And I always loved music. I was in musical theater, in the Guilford Performing Arts, right up through high school. I started writing songs in middle school when my best friend taught me 3 chords on the guitar, and that's all I needed.
You started in junior high writing
I
music.
did.
Wow.
Actually, I had written songs before, but up to that point, it was just sort of singing around the house and a cappella. But in middle school, I finally was able to put music to my lyrics, which is so exciting. And yeah, so I've been writing songs ever since, but not professionally until around 2015. I started performing out publicly. I kind of had a period there where I stopped and dealt with some imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and just things that kind of held me back. And I was scared. I was scared to perform. And it took me a while to kind of come back to myself, which is a huge part of my story and my messaging. And you've probably seen my logo that says be you, be brave, be free. And that's really where it stems from. I feel really passionate about being yourself and not letting the world and kind of life sway you from your passions and your dreams. And I feel passionate about sharing that message with everyone else too. So
cheers to that.
That's a great message. I mean, I think that's the only way true creation actually takes place. You need to put all that out of your mind, which isn't easy to do, and just do what makes sense to you. Even if it doesn't make sense to everybody else, it makes sense to you, and you got to go with it. That's great.
What was drilled into our heads. I went to fine art school and I studied fine art for 4 years, and that was the message that was clearly delivered every day: is you need to be doing what you're doing for you and nobody else. And in fact, if you made any ovations toward suggesting or approaching the idea of presenting something based on somebody else's ideas, you were immediately shot down. And it really stuck with me. And it is an important idea.
It's cool. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but the whole creative process, I mean, we are just the products of everything we've digested prior to this moment. So there's a lot of copying or reiterating our own influences. You grow up listening to certain artists, and then when you go to play, that's all in your head. Right. So it's easy to just move that forward. And it's hard to feel like a true creative spirit with all of that baggage, that situation that we have.
And I think honoring that and like kind of taking the pressure off too. Like, yes, you're creating something new and you find inspiration from things that you've heard or things that have inspired you. And I think that's okay. That whole borrowed creativity, and there's a lot of, I don't know, I guess there can be some shame around that, but once you can embrace the idea of like, no, that's cool. Like, people have paved the way and done some really cool stuff, and now we get to build on that. I mean, sound evolves, sound and music making and just the production side of things evolves like every few years too. And it's cool. And then you find people, coming back now and using elements from the 70s in their recordings and bringing it back. And it's, that's modern. And it is, it's a new thing. And it's also, creativity taken from these other really talented and amazing creative people. So,
well, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Who's to say anything we do hasn't been considered by somebody else on some level?
Done before at some level, creative.
Well, the fun thing though is it hasn't been. We do keep hearing new, novel, unique things that we haven't heard before, which is astonishing. Because you would think you would have the same thing, whether it's 88 keys or 6 strings on a guitar, that it's all been done before, but not at all.
Yeah.
It's just the possibilities are more or less endless.
I mean, how many songs are written just in the key of C, for example?
Yeah.
And there's only so many chords in that one key.
Yeah.
And yet so many ways to express it, so many things to say. It's mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, that's great.
So I didn't know this. You started playing in 2015 is when you sort of came back and started playing out.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, that is around the same time, if not the same time, we first heard you play in the garden.
Yeah.
People would come and
probably one of my first shows.
People would come and sit on the stone wall for 4th of July, and you would set up and play there.
Yes.
I remember this distinctly when we moved into this building in 2014.
Oh, okay.
So we were new here. We're new to the neighborhood, and we didn't know your father, who owned the building next door.
Yes, he
We
did.
didn't know him at the time. He did come over. Hi, nice to see you. He had come over to us and let us know that he said he owned the building next door, and my daughter's going to be playing, and it's going to be okay. And of course it was 4th of July, and we always did barbecue on the deck
That's right.
every
Yeah.
4th of July.
Mhm.
Right.
And we used to have music playing, and we would turn the music down so that all of our guests could hear
Right.
your music coming
Thank
from
you.
across the street. You're welcome. So that's our first introduction to you, is that
Yeah.
for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, every year, your father would put on you and your father, and your father helped you organize it, I assume.
Yep.
And he's practically devoted, because I think every time you come to play for us, he's joined
My
us. So.
parents are amazing.
They
Hi.
are.
They're so supportive. They come to every show that they can. And yeah, you can't do something like this alone, as you all know. Embarking on something new, something big, something that maybe isn't the status quo, roadmap for your life. It's so important to have a strong support system. So I feel really lucky for that. And 4th of July shows are fun because I'm super patriotic. I love this country, and also I'm back to my be you, be brave, be free thing. It just feels like it fits, freedom and so.
But you were doing shows every year, and we would look forward
We
to
should
it.
bring
We
that
started
back.
Yeah.
Well,
Throw
we
that out
do.
there.
She's
Well,
playing
yeah, I
the
think
garden now on
the
a
4th
regular.
of July show. We should.
You played the 4th of July last year.
Yeah, because you generously offered those shows to continue, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So
Yeah.
the other twist is that your father was the owner of that building, and by whatever happenstance, he ultimately decided to sell the building, and we were able to buy it from him, which allowed us to continue. If some random person had bought that building, it's very unlikely that there would have been that type of connection.
Yeah.
Right,
We had been
right.
connected with you for years out there. So it was really cool that, and I remember saying that when we were at the closing, letting your father know that you would have an open invitation for as long as it was possible to continue the 4th of July show, because we thought it was such a cool thing.
Thank you.
Well, now it's
Special.
coming back even
More
further
Oh, full
because
circle.
because now you're going to introduce a whole new thing here in this building,
I know, I'm excited.
which is really exciting.
This sort of venue was one of your dad's visions for what he wanted to do next door. He wanted to have an event space
Yeah.
like this, and you're
And
20
have
feet
folk
away.
music, I think was one
Yeah,
of
that's
his.
folk music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poetry
So here
and-
we
So
are.
my dad has always loved singer-songwriter folk music. I mean, I grew up kind of hearing him listen to a lot of different female songwriters.
Yeah.
And so, and then having me come into it, and we've learned a lot about the industry. I still have a lot more to learn, but
Don't we all?
it's
Yeah.
hard to find venues that really are like a listening space, where the music is the focus. And, I think what you're doing here is just awesome. And I'm so excited. So thank you for inviting me to be part of it.
Well, it only happens for people like you that, can come and perform because you don't want any of us performing on the stage.
Well, and it's also important to know, from the day I first met you, your energy, your enthusiasm, and your what's the word? Real. You're always very real. You say it like it is. You sing it like it is.
Genuine.
Genuine. That's the word. Very genuine, and I really have always appreciated that about you. And I also like the fact that you seem to have an ability to connect with people, not just musically here on stage, but you've connected with people in a broader way through social media, through other channels. And that's all really, I love that. Important.
Thank you.
It's really important. So I think that's what's inspired me to want to do more, get you more involved, and partner together on more projects. So,
Thanks. Me too. It means a lot because I feel like for me, it's all about connection. I love writing songs. I love performing them. I love it when people are like, hey, great job. Like, that just makes me feel good. But I really love finding moments to laugh with the audience in the middle of the show, or someone comes up after and says, hey, that song really resonated with me because I went through this. And I mean, that's what it's all about. You're expressing things yourself, but you're also hoping that people don't just leave saying, that was nice, but they leave feeling like moved,
Right.
That's what music is.
Right.
It moves people in a way that other things just don't.
So on that note, let me
Yes.
suggest maybe you move our audience a little bit. You suggested you have
Okay.
a song that you might be able to
Yes.
play for us tonight,
Thank you.
and that would be wonderful. And before you do that, if anybody out in the audience has any questions for Katie while she's playing her song, let those questions be known to Marika. Type them in, and we'll get to you on those.
Right.
Definitely.
So I have many songs. So when I was thinking about what to play tonight, I want to play a song that isn't recorded, so it's not on Spotify or anything. It's kind of a newer song.
Great.
But it's a song called Lucky, and y'all might relate a little bit because it's this idea of overnight success and how oftentimes it looks like, wow, you have a winery? That's amazing. Good for you. Like, that's so cool. And, people appreciate it. They see the success, but they may not know all of the blood, sweat, and tears and time that goes on behind the scenes, right?
Right.
Still, and also, where you were just talking about where it started in an apartment, right? Of course, yeah, your house.
Yeah.
In his office.
My master bedroom.
Yeah. So it's kind of a sarcastic song, I guess, a little bit about how nothing really happens overnight, and probably anyone listening can relate to.
Have you played this live before? Is it possible I've heard this?
Yes, it's possible you've heard this.
Maybe in the garden?
Yes,
Okay.
you probably have.
Great.
It's called Lucky, or Getting Lucky. If I put in 80 hours a week, first to arrive and last to leave. If I work hard and long enough, maybe I'll get lucky. If I always stay out late to meet all the right people in the scene. If I just never ever sleep, maybe I'll get lucky. Overnight success, it don't come quickly, no. It's called living the dream, 'cause you're never sleeping. Yeah, you can work 9 to 9, past closing time, but all they'll ever see is how you make it look so easy. Yeah, you're so lucky. If I read all of the right books, make sure I'm smarter than I look. If I could become an expert, maybe I'll get lucky. Then I could teach you the secret to working hard till you get everything you ever wanted you to be lucky. Overnight success, it don't come quickly, no. It's called living the dream, 'cause you're never sleeping. Yeah, you can work 9 to 9, past closing time, but all they'll ever see is how you make it look so easy. Yeah, you're so lucky. You're like a 4-leaf clover, an autumn winter, a sunny beach day in the middle of winter. So much magic, how do you do it? Seems like it comes so naturally to you. If you put in 8 hours a week, first to arrive, last to leave. If you work hard long enough, you too could be lucky.
Great. Oh, that's great.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Great.
That should be
That was
amazing.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. Please, are you recording that soon? Please
I
record
hope
that.
to at some point.
That
It's
was
not one of the ones I'm working on now because I feel like it's almost a little bit country, which actually I don't, most of my songs aren't kind of that vibe. So it doesn't fit with the collection I'm doing right now, but it's on my list as, because a lot of like songwriter friends I have, I don't know, I played it for them and they're like, oh, this is how I feel.
Yeah,
you know,
very much.
Oh,
Yeah, from the
that's
first
chord,
line.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
We got a great comment. Several loves it and great jobs.
Thank you.
One comment that yeah, they love the line. It's called living the dream because you're never sleeping.
Right.
That's good.
And not to, I mean, it is a dream, and it's so special to follow your dreams. And, you know, it's just, it doesn't come without challenges. And
Right.
those
Right.
of us who are fighting the good dream fight, we know that.
So, technical question. What's the difference between poetry and lyrics? If you're writing, if you're putting together a concept with words, are you hearing music that goes with it? Does the music support the words? Do the words support the music? How does that all work? I mean, I love music. I love reading the lyrics to music. It's something that I spend quite a bit of time doing, but I don't get drawn into poetry as much, and I don't know why. And I've never had the opportunity to ask someone, how do you approach it? What is that? How does that work for you when you write?
Well, I was going to ask you a question, but let me answer first. So I also love writing poetry, prose, just thoughts. I love the written word also.
Okay.
But for me, lyrically, it usually all comes together. So I will sort of just be driving. Usually I'm driving in my car or hiking in the woods. Like I'm doing something where my mind can kind of just wander.
You distract your physical body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I rarely sit down intentionally write a song, although that last song was intentional. So it does happen. But oftentimes, like my favorite times writing, excuse me, have just been, I just sort of start getting this download and I'll kind of just start singing a lyric kind of over and over again until I have a melody that I really like. And then I will record it on my phone and then it sort of just takes shape from there. So for me, they happen at the same time. I know that that differs widely,
Right. Right.
depending on the songwriter. So
Yeah.
Can I take a stab at that?
Yeah.
It's a great question, and I've never actually considered it before. And as you
Neither
were
have I.
asking it, I started considering that because I too am not one who's been drawn easily to poetry.
Yeah.
There has been some poetry that I found interesting
Yeah.
and enjoyed, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I'm not drawn to it. But I'm deeply drawn to music. And a lot of music that I'm drawn to is poetry. I mean, a lot of the artists who I know are
Right.
poets
Right.
in their own right. And
Right.
some of their songs, if you took all the music away, would stand alone as poems. And that's, for me, I think the difference is that I don't need, the lyrics don't need to guide me for me to enjoy the music. It's because they come as a package. When the music is being performed with the lyrics, I can choose, my brain can choose to get into the melodies and get into the beautiful sounds that are being created,
Right.
and have less need to understand the language. And that doesn't mean
So, yeah.
it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that I'm not, the words aren't of importance. There are times when I feel more drawn to the language, but I'm more able to connect with poetry given the added piece of music.
Yeah, it's like listening to music where it's being sung in a foreign language, one that you don't know. So you don't know what
Right.
the words actually mean.
Exactly.
Yet, it's almost like wine and food. When the combination goes really well, everything gets amped up, and it's just overwhelming to your senses. I mean, It's
Right.
just fantastic when everything happens. You don't even know what those words mean or what that feeling or those sound vibrations mean, but it's all going together, and it just lifts you, takes you to different places. That's just so
Exactly.
damn powerful.
And sometimes when you read poetry, I feel like, even though it may be in English, I feel like I'm reading a foreign language. I don't understand what's being said.
Right.
And I'm challenged mentally, and I'm feeling left behind, and I'm feeling like I'm not. So then I'm struggling, and I don't want to be struggling. I want to be enjoying. So
Yeah. I mean, some songs, I love the songs, but I have learned things about them as I've gone through life. The lyrics mean something different to me when I'm in a different phase
Yeah,
of life or in a different time. So there's multi-dimensions to the choices of words and the sound that carries them along.
my own songs do that. I will write a song at one stage of life, and then a couple years later,
That must be wild.
it takes on new meaning for me. I remember why I wrote it, but
Wow.
it's like I also write a lot in metaphors and stuff, so it leaves a lot of room for that
Yeah.
kind of growth to happen, or that connecting from a lot of different perspectives. But it is wild when.
But that's when it's great, I think, is when that's amazing to me when people write a book or poetry or produce a song that has multiple meanings to all the people that hear them.
Yeah.
And that person had an idea or a goal perhaps when it happened, or they didn't, it just came out of them, and there it is. But
There is a science of sound, like I'm sure you've heard of it. There's a whole people just study the science of music. I'm reading a book right now called "This Is Your Brain on Music."
Oh, I
It's
love that
pretty
book.
fascinating.
That's a
You
great
read
book.
it?
Oh,
Okay.
years ago.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
That's a
to
guy
think about.
he was out west in San Francisco, and he was a rock and roller for a while, and then he went on to Berkeley or something like that. He got his PhD in philosophy or something, and wrote this book about music. And that's a great book.
It's really well
It's
written
a great
because
book.
it's not like so scientific that it leaves you lost and feeling like you're trying to figure it out. But
Right.
it just lays things out in an interesting way. But these sound vibrations, they actually do something to you physiologically.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a difference, right, between reading words on a page and hearing something that you can listen to a song and feel super anxious, depending on what kind of music it is, or
I mean, we're mostly
Musical.
liquid. We're being vibrated all the time by everything around us. So
Yeah.
if we immerse ourselves in those
Right.
vibrations, it's
You also think about the visual arts in the same way. There's a science behind
it's true.
the
Oh, yeah.
study of what is visually pleasing. I mean, the Greeks came up with these codes for how big a window should be, how
Mhm.
big, how dimensions should be in an architectural form. And there are certain dimensions that are determined to be very pleasing, very comfortable to the eye, and easy to absorb. Whereas you break those rules, you create tension.
Right.
So it's the same idea,
Yeah.
it seems to me, that there's certain sounds and certain rhythms that create an easier feeling, whereas you could break those rules and create tension.
right. It's like Fibonacci and Bach and these people that
Follow rules.
put these rhythms together, but it's a common thread through humans and the biosphere all over the place.
Well, that's also what's interesting, because we play a lot of jazz here, and jazz breaks a lot of rules, it seems. I mean, and maybe not, classical rules, if you will. I mean, from what I've
They
learned.
Or it's just rules are inappropriate.
They're constantly trying to defend the rules that they defend the rules, create new rules, and there's a lot of tension in jazz. Not all jazz, of course, but
He'd have a little plate for you.
jazz can be very, very, very much tension. And sometimes modern jazz almost seems to, I respond to it like I do poetry. I sometimes don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with the sound. Not that I don't enjoy it. I don't
Yeah,
appreciate
the
it.
vibrations don't work right
Yeah.
for you at that time or whatever, and then it becomes a wall. It's not penetrable. It's like sometimes a new visual or auditory art form can hit you in a strange way, and you
Yeah.
can't penetrate it. And it's just flat. It's just not. And then other times it's just like, wow, you just fall into it and it takes you off.
And I think even within the music that just sort of works and makes sense scientifically, people interpret it different ways. Like when we're thinking about straight music and how even without lyrics you can get emotion, or if you don't understand lyrics, you get different emotions out of it. And I'm thinking of a conversation that we had, Bob. I often, if I'm showing up really early sometimes to the winery to do some side work, I like putting on different music than what we play during the day usually. And a lot of times when I put on, I do sort of like choral, like I don't know how to pronounce it, like Voices 8. They're an a cappella group that does a lot of sort of traditional choral stuff
Right.
and things like the adagio for strings
Octave changes.
type music that to me is beautiful and peaceful, lovely background music. And I remember Bob coming in one morning and asking to turn it off because it was stressing him out. Which is interesting because to me it's very peaceful, but you were explaining that to you it's just, you can hear the emotion in it. And that was sort of, because there's so much emotion, even though there's no lyrics, or if there are lyrics, you don't know what they're saying, but just the raw emotion of it isn't necessarily calming. I thought that was a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I remember that conversation. I remember that I was feeling tense, and again, maybe in another place or another time or another environment, I might be able to listen to that music without those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But in the space I was at on that day, it just was creating tension.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I remember that.
Well, and I think that's what art in general, and certainly music too, is. It's about balancing, and sometimes it's about tension. You create interest with tension. You create questions with tension. There's some value to that, and sometimes we're not. Sometimes that's not what we're trying to achieve. Sometimes we're trying to connect more directly and not create tension, but create synchronicity.
Jewel writes about that in her book Unbroken. Jewel, the singer-songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
She writes about how, which this stresses me out, but she said she never makes a set list. She just, comes into the room, takes a minute to sort of assess the vibe and the feeling in the room, because any given day, you might be dealing with a different vibe depending on who's there, what people's day was like, whatever.
That's a high art
And
form.
she chooses her songs
That's cool.
And she talks about like that kind of audience vibration and like how she's feeling and how she's reading the room, and that's how she plans her entire show. And again, that would stress me out, but I thought it was pretty cool.
So
I would need to plan, but I feel like I could do like a tree. So like,
Yeah.
depending on how the show is going, you could go this route or this route, but I feel like I need the options lined up.
That's kind of what I do, like especially with the shows, the monthly shows. I'm going to be hosting the Songwriter RoundUP shows where we'll be playing in a round. I do more of that then, because it's kind of like this. It's a cool, casual feel, and you're playing off of the other artists in the room, and you're playing off of the audience.
It's jazz.
And depending on how maybe what the artist before me just played, I might pick a different song. So then I feel like I do some of that, I guess, but
because you have other artists on stage to bounce it off of too,
Yeah.
so you get a sort of a break between to think about what your next piece might be.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you just said really connects with me in that I do a history presentation. I still give tours of the winery on a regular basis, and when I first gave those tours, I had a script. It wasn't necessarily written. But I studied in my head a script and came up with a pattern of information to deliver in a patterned way. And I've been doing it now for 10 years. What I found is now I have the freedom to give whatever pattern now I'm reading the audience. And I'm highlighting things that I wouldn't highlight maybe last week, but I'm going to highlight this week because the audience is going to respond to that differently. Mm-hmm. And that becomes this higher level of interaction between your audience that is really special. I love it because it frees me from the script.
Yeah.
And I can then tell a story that's more from the heart.
And the audience feels that too.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. It becomes more genuine.
Yes. You reminded me, sorry.
Oh, I have a question, but you guys are having a conversation. So
it just reminded me of when I released my first album in 2017, and it was my first time playing with a full band. And I did so much preparation for it. I had the whole set planned out because you have to rehearse with the band. Mm-hmm. But I had a set list on stage with me, and under every song, I had written exactly what I wanted to say about that song. Because I was nervous that I was going to forget, and I was so new to all of it. Sure. But I don't do that anymore. So you're right. I should give myself more credit. I might not be quite at Jewel's level, but I definitely do more of that than I think.
And it takes time. As you continue to perform and you grow into your career, you will find that space.
Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't get a chance to interview Jewel here, but now we can say that we interviewed Katie before she was with Jewel.
Exactly.
Because we got in there early.
I remember seeing Jewel in Homer, Alaska, just before her first album came out, playing at the local pub, and she grew up singer-songwriting with her dad, Hans Kilcher, and pretty much sang and played her whole life. So she had so much experience going into that, even as a 20-year-old or however old she was at the time. But one of the things that struck me, and that's relevant to your mission as a singer-songwriter, is being connected to who you are and your creativity. One of the things I really liked about Jewel was that when you listened to her sing, it felt like it was coming up through the center of the earth and coming out through her pipes. And she's got a very strong voice and a very good voice. And then her, what she wrote about was interesting and fun and sort of lighthearted, but it always felt like it came through something ethereal that was a part of this thing where she was coming together as a person with the energy and the vibration of wherever this creativity comes from. Do you have a song that you feel like that in your repertoire that is like, this is your thing that's just bursting out of you more than another, and one where the noise is something more than the words, or vice versa, as a matter of it affecting you?
Definitely. I think that is true of a couple songs that I've written on the piano, where I don't even really remember the process of writing them.
Right.
I was just talking about this with my dad earlier today, because I was working on one of these songs in the studio. The song's called Grateful, and the lyrics are, you shine like the northern lights, your color radiates through the night, and I'm grateful. That's the chorus. But he was asking me, what were you intending when you wrote this? Like, what were you trying to evoke? What were you trying to get at? And I was like, I don't know. I don't remember writing it. It was it must have been a spiritual moment for me, because it just sort of I didn't have the song, cool. And then I did. Right. And I don't know. Yeah. And I now can sort of look back and think about, well, what is this song about? What does it mean to me? But even when I sing it, I'm not really necessarily picturing one thing. I just feel like it's sort of
it's an energy. It's
an energy.
Yeah. I think the Greeks had a word for that process, that connection to. They were the Maenids, or I may have this wrong. You studied Greek.
I was worried you were going to turn it into I should know.
But there was the concept is there. There's out in the ether in the universe. There are, in their case, they were different gods that did different things, and there were ones that connected with this creativity. So you're like my story with Jewel, and it's just my perception. I have no idea what it's like to be Jewel, but that I felt that. So maybe it's all an act. Maybe it's just something in my mind. But it seems like there's got to be something there. I mean, if you have a song that you can't even describe why it is or where the words came from, but it's pouring out of you, I think that for all of us in our life as people, and to your point of your mission, that's where we ought to live our lives. Right? We should be
that's the best stuff.
To that universal energy that we have our own relationship with, that is true to who we are.
So, and I believe that whatever you experienced writing the song, that energy, or for this particular song, it was inspired by my faith. And I believe that whatever's happening in that moment of creativity can actually be kind of transferred to the audience when you play it, which I think is what you're experiencing when you heard Jewel. Right. She wrote out of that place of deep connection, and soul and spirit, and then it's coming across when she performs, because it is genuine, you know, and I think that's so powerful. And it doesn't happen all the time, but I call them divine downloads, you know, the song, it came. And I didn't really have to do anything. I showed up, I sung, I played, and now there's a song.
It's great. It's really great.
Bringing it back to you told a little bit about your history. Now you're doing music professionally. You have at least one, or is it 2 albums already produced? Two. You want to share about those 2, and then you are working on another album, so maybe you want to tell us about that.
And then we got to talk about the Songwriter RoundUp.
I know we do.
We've got
the time is running out.
We have 20 minutes left.
We haven't even talked about what we're drinking, or even mentioned the charcuterie board.
Commercial break.
We've been so wrapped up talking about music and lyrics
conversation. I love it.
Divine downloads, and we're not even eating. It's great.
But I do want to take a commercial break to tout the wonderful work that our chef Travis does.
It's actually getting viewed this time, because most of the time we
actually didn't eat
it. Because I can't reach it.
So thank you, Travis, again. All local goodies from our from New England, from Vermont, New Hampshire, and Travis always puts together this wonderful plate of cheeses and meats from all our local producers. So thank you, Travis, and thank you all the local producers for creating this great stuff. So that's our
and who all in Lake House White?
Yeah. So we
And-
have-
And we're drinking
Right.
Red
We're
Scare and
drinking
Lake House White.
and
Red Scare and Lake House White.
Yep.
Yeah, and I have to say that the Red Scare is just
It's
killing me.
delicious
And
as
It's
always.
one,
so
in
good.
case anybody was in
I
doubt.
just love Red Scare.
Well, I get these divine downloads.
Who's drinking what?
Great. All of a
Everybody's
sudden,
drinking.
this stuff just happens. It's like, where'd that come from?
He has an empty tank, and all of a sudden it's full of Red Scare.
It goes.
It's like, whoa, that's
Christine's
cool.
got some Winnie Rosé. Those were our audience comments regarding what they were drinking. We also got to share with Katie. We had a comment from Gary Parker. He's apologizing for smoking you out at Guilford Old Home Day. He was in the little red car in front of him.
That's awesome.
He does have
That little red car.
Love
Yeah,
the
I
little
know
red
that
car.
little red car.
A little bit.
That little red car is going to be on our new website at some point.
Karen asks if you have a muse.
A muse. I have a song called The Muse.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Well, I have a song called The Muse, and it's on. So back to your question, Bob.
Yeah, there you go.
I have two albums out. The first one was released in 2017. It's called She Is Free. And it really, it was at a spiritual faith conference where that was called She Is Free, where I felt this call back to music. And I came home in 2015 and I was like, what am I doing? I got to get back into music. And I immediately started working on my album. And I called it She Is Free after that, moment and conference and experience that I had. And that's where the Be You, Be Brave, Be Free was born and all of that. I recorded it in Guilford. I sound a little younger because, it was released a little bit ago now, but it's a special album, hopefully a special place in my heart. And then the second album came out in 2019. It's called There Is Light. And on that album, there is a song called The Muse. And I wrote it to myself. A lot of times I write songs to myself that, so it's the idea of the song is, why are you running away from yourself? Why are you avoiding your own truth? Why are you so afraid of that muse? Those aren't the lyrics exactly, but something like that. Because I feel like there was this vibe, this muse, spirit, whatever you want to call it, inside of me, that I was just exploring, and this thing that I had to do, which was express myself in music, and I just hadn't been doing it. And so I wrote that song during the creation of my first album, but it didn't make the cut. We had too many songs already, so I put it on my second album. But yes, I do have a muse, but it's not a specific person or anything like that. I think a lot of the times it's God, Spirit, and it's also just like just listening to my own inner voice and not being afraid of that, and listening to my own inner child. Like, I think things that we're passionate about when we're children, they don't really go away. Just sometimes we tuck them away for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, like, she speaks very loudly. She being my kind of inner child speaks very loudly to me.
That's a great answer.
Thankfully, no. She's very kind.
That's great. Are these available, your albums, do you have to go to the record store downtown and have a record player?
Do we have one of those?
To play these albums on, or are they available some other media?
There's no records.
There's no records?
No, but there are
I'm
CDs.
old-fashioned.
There are CDs. I didn't make
CD.
any vinyl of it.
Are you on Spotify?
I am
Apple
also
Music?
on Spotify, Apple Music, all that jazz.
I just linked Katie's website. a couple times in
Thank
the
you.
comments.
Are all your albums on, all your songs on Spotify?
Yes.
Oh,
And even one that I produced myself might not be to the same perfection as the others, but in 2020, 2021, I spent a lot of time in my home recording studio learning how to produce music, and there is one out there that I did make myself.
Yep.
So,
Great.
yes, and I'm in the studio right now working on 4 new songs. Might develop into an EP or an album, not sure yet, but I'm working on 4 singles right now. So sometime this year those will be out. If you want to follow me and stay in touch, then I will always post about everything.
Yeah.
People follow you on
Speaking
Facebook?
following you, yes. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can follow you, and
Yes.
you should talk about those. But there's also, we should talk about Patreon.
Yes.
Yeah,
I always
Patreon's
forget
a
to
great
talk about my
vehicle.
Patreon.
We
Yeah.
are followers of Katie, on Patreon. So
Good.
Thank you for that.
you're welcome, and I'm happy to support
Yeah.
what you're doing. So
That's a
talk
great,
about how to
it's a
help
great
people
vehicle.
follow you.
It's a great vehicle to just crowdsource
Yeah.
support
Absolutely.
for individuals. You channel everything from lots of people, whether it's a small amount donation every month or whatever it is, but that empowers someone to pursue themselves, and
Yeah.
the whole world benefits from that.
Yeah.
It's a great format.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of Patreon, it is a crowdfunding. It's kind of, I think of it as almost like a VIP club kind of thing, but you can subscribe or donate monthly to my Patreon page. And there's different tiers. You can choose whatever donation level fits you, or, you know, that you feel comfortable with. I have my Patreon set up that no matter what you donate, you get access to all of the same things, because I wanted to make it accessible to everyone, and I didn't want anyone to feel like they were missing out on cool perks. So everything I posted.
Such a
was
socialist.
everyone.
It's great.
And yeah, and so whether you donate $2 or $20, it's just, and what I have found is that a lot of people, they just want to support and they appreciate the perks. You know, I'll put music out, I'll do weekly updates. Sometimes I'll write poetry and I'll share it there. I'll share things that are in progress that I might not want to put out to the whole world and things like that. And I'll do like exclusive live streams, and that's all fun and people like it, but mostly they just want to support, which is really nice.
Yeah.
and just makes me feel really, I don't know. Again, you need that community. Like, you need to feel supported when you're following your dreams and building something new. And so it's really nice to kind of know that there's people in my corner backing me in that way.
That's what
Well, that's-
we have that with
that's-
our club and the folks that are here every week with our Monday show. We get that core group that we can
Yeah.
know we can rely
I know,
on.
it's really humbling when you
Yeah.
have something that you like doing and creating. I like making this wine, and then people come in and they like this wine and they buy this wine. It's like, wow, thank you. It's really,
Yeah.
it's great. I get to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, it's
When we moved here, we created a Kickstarter campaign, and our friends, family, and friends of the winery donated, at the end of the day, close to $30,000 to help us grow this winery. And those were just genuine heartfelt gifts to support an idea and a dream. And I think things like Patreon, I'm so impressed by that as an opportunity for young artists, or any artists actually, young and old,
right.
to make a connection with people in ways that we can't. I don't know that our society supports art in the way I wish it did. We don't have the mechanisms in society. Art is not, artists aren't paid what football players are paid. We, as a society, have decided to support other things, and it's, I think, at a loss. I think the arts are probably one of the most important things that society can support, and so Patreon gives us a tool to do that.
Well, it's
So
the
whether
first time. That's one of the great benefits of the internet now. One of the things that it helps happen is
Yeah.
that people of modest means can support people in a really impactful way by giving a very small amount, but a whole bunch of people giving a small amount. It used to be you had a king somewhere or a really wealthy person supporting the arts and paying the way for the artists. And now we've enabled ourselves to support what we like.
Right.
It's great. It's changing things a lot. And we're seeing incredible amounts of creativity that's happening because people don't necessarily have to go work a full schedule to pay their bills and then try to fit their art, their passion on the side.
Right. So let's not miss this opportunity.
Yeah.
How can people connect with you? Is it through their website? It's
I
the
link
link?
it's on Katie's website.
Yes, right. It's like the first thing on my website. Made it really easy to find, or it's patreon.com.
And you have an Instagram account.
Yes, Instagram, Facebook, every TikTok. If
Oh.
you're into that.
We've held back from TikTok yet. We're not quite ready.
We should be doing that.
It's
We're getting there.
its own animal for sure. But
Yeah.
everywhere on social media, I am Katie Dobbins.
Get a little Travis TikTok going.
YouTube, yes,
Nice.
YouTube. I have a lot of things on YouTube that aren't on Spotify, like some demos that I made in my home studio. And some music videos that I put them to. Those are all on YouTube, and some other just like kind of like intimate live performances from my home studio are up there.
So that's great. Before we run out of time. 'cause
Yeah, we
are-
gotta talk about Songwriter RoundUp.
Yeah, we need to hear about what's
We need to
happening
know what's
here.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
that's
is-
very exciting.
This is largely why you're here. We
Yes.
wanted, for sure, we wanted to introduce yourself to the world, but to our world. But you have, you've played at a garden. You've acted as a warm-up artist for some of our Thursday night listening room series. And through all of that, we connected and you proposed a concept that would bring another night of music to our loft, which is just fabulous to me, because I think we built this space. This is about music. So what's happening? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
You created this. This is your show. You created it. You introduced it to us, and we decided.
I still remember he was so excited. He came and said, Katie wants to create this new thing here. It's awesome.
Oh,
It was
that's
great. It was the
awesome.
first time someone from the outside was coming in and said, hey, I would love to use your space this way,
That's so cool.
which is what we had hoped to
Yeah.
do, act like a catalyst and provide this for people like you. So you're the first one to make it happen.
Well, thank you for encouraging it, supporting it. I mean, you guys have really pushed me. We've had so many meetings about this and spent so much time really like thinking this through and planning for it, which means a lot. It's not just thrown together haphazard, which I really appreciate. And I feel like having your backing and support is exciting. So thank you for that. But yeah, so monthly series. It's called Songwriter RoundUp. And I will be here on the last Wednesday of every month with two other artists with me. We'll all be sitting on stage and performing what's called In the Round. So we'll just be rotating through and each playing a song and kind of talking about the songs in between, talking with each other, talking with you. So it's kind of an intimate acoustic show and all original music. And yeah, I'm excited.
That's really great.
Started
Great
this in
idea.
Boston, right?
Yeah, so I did this. I lived in the Somerville area in Boston for almost a decade, and the last year or so that I was there, I was running this series down there, and it was so fun and so special. And then recently, I did some of the shows online virtually, so it's available on the YouTube channel as well. If you want to get an idea for the vibe, it's a little different than in person,
Right.
but it was cool that we were able to continue them. And yeah, now we'll be back together again. So
Great.
mhm.
Are all these posted on your website and our website? We buy tickets through.
Oh, yeah.
Tickets, yes, your
Okay.
website, hermitwoods.com, and my website too.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
Great.
it's posted pretty widely right now. It's on our website, it's on our Eventbrite account, you can get to Eventbrite, and it's on our social media as well. And we'll continue to get the word out. The first show is this Wednesday, and our guest artists are,
Ariel Strasser and Audrey Drake.
and Audrey's actually played here.
She's played here before, yeah.
She's an amazing artist. I don't know Ariel yet.
So Ariel has been on, she performed with me in this format in Boston and when I did the virtual series. So
Oh,
I
great.
love Ariel. She's amazing.
Great.
She's another art. She just exudes light and she's super talented. I feel like she might have gone to Berkeley, unless I'm making that up. So don't quote me. But she's really talented. I love her. So I'm excited to play with her again. And Audrey, I've known for a while because she recorded her album while I was recording mine at the same studio
Oh,
in Guilford. Well, it's different now, but it was called the Recording Co-op, and it has changed ownership. Now it's Greenhouse Studios.
Oh,
John MacArthur.
Yes, she went.
yeah, John.
She did go to
She's
Berkeley.
from Minnesota.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was like a converted from an old barn. So it had, on a rainy day, you could still smell the, not in a bad way, in a really like nice earthy way. You could still smell the horses and stuff. And it's
I like to
pretty
smell that
cool.
one.
I like that in a gold
Yeah.
Provence red wine too.
Yeah, so I've known of Audrey for a while, but we haven't played together yet. So I'm super stoked to play with her. And she performs throughout New England and is super talented. I just saw her recently up north, so I'm excited.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So
She
another-
sings from the soul very much.
Oh,
So yeah.
Another thing that we're excited about this is that, and I'm hoping to make this happen for this Wednesday. But the original goal was that this would become both a live performance here in the loft and a virtual performance. So that for those who can't make it to the loft or from some other part of the world, they can tune in and watch these shows every performance. So if all goes well, starting this Wednesday,
Really?
if not this Wednesday, maybe the one
Right.
show.
That's awesome.
These will be live on YouTube and Facebook every time they perform. So
That's
and
right.
then they'll be
Then they
archived. So
go out around the planet.
yeah, they'll be archived to our YouTube channel, so people will be able to go and see these after the fact as well. So,
They'll live forever.
yes, they will. Once they're on the internet, that's it.
Yes.
Forever.
Yes.
So we have just a couple minutes left. I wonder if you couldn't take us out with a little bit of a tune.
Oh, sure.
If you have something. in
Should we
mind.
do a sing-along?
No.
No. Feel free, Joe.
I'm just
We could
kidding.
sing this little at a time.
I got him. Don't worry.
I don't think I've ever heard any of the
No, we
guys.
don't.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that.
Never want to.
We don't even like to hear ourselves in our own car singing. Yeah.
Bring music to us. We can't create it ourselves.
Oh, well, I didn't rehearse this one, so might be risky, but we're gonna go. Because someone asked me if I have a muse, maybe I can play
Yeah.
the muse. Chris, who runs sound here sometimes, reminded me how important it is to always tune your guitar, so please pardon my.
I always find that interesting. I see lots of shows, and I see lots of artists who play guitar on stage. And some of them tune almost every song, and some of them don't tune at all. And I find that really amazing that there can be that big of a difference
Right.
between what's right and what's
Some people's ear just really picks up if anything's off.
A little bit.
My producer that I'm working with right now, Rocking Horse Studios in Pittsfield, his name is Brian, and he has like a really good ear for pitch. And if anything, I mean, I'm like, sounds great. And he's
Yeah.
like, no, this line was a
Yeah.
little, you
Yeah.
know, you gotta fix it. I'm like, okay, I trust you, you know. So some people just, you know,
Right.
yeah, they hear it. Whereas I'm like, I don't know, I'm just singing, like, it's fine. Just kidding, I mean, but tuning, this is why
Yeah, there's I have a certain respect for them. Because I know they care.
True. So this is that song that I was telling you about earlier. It's called The Muse. We could begin in the same old place. Get yourself ready for the same old day. Moving along at the same old pace. Telling yourself that you like it that way. This routine isn't wearing thin. Sometimes in life it's just easier to blend in. That's what you tell yourself to keep on going. You're searching and running away from the truth, trying to hold on to someone else's news, dying to just step out of your shoes, all because you're frightened by the news. In you. Ooh, ooh, music, you. Ooh, ooh, looking around at the same old faces, pushing along in this never-ending race. So many shots that you'll never take. No room to risk making mistakes. Searching and running away from the truth, trying to hold on to someone else's news, dying to just step out of your shoes, all because you're frightened by the news. In you. Ooh, ooh, music, you. Ooh, ooh, whispers, can you feel the whispers? The whispers beneath your feel the sound now. There's a pulse pushing out of you. It's rising and it's getting louder, louder, louder. Oh, quiet that sound, quiet that sound, quiet that sound. Searching, you're running away from the truth. You're dying. Why are you dying to get out of your shoes? You're frightened. Why are you scared of that? You. Music, you.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Wow.
Thank you.
And with short
That's
notice,
really great.
It's great for you to take the time out to do it. Be here to share your beautiful music and your story. And we can't wait till Wednesday night to hear you live on our stage. I hope you can make
Yeah.
it. If you can't, hopefully we'll be live to YouTube so you can watch from afar. And I guess we'll see you all next Monday.
And
And
we're talking about what?
Something good.
we'll figure it out.
Something good.
We'll figure out.
Something good. Stay tuned for something good.
We'll have
next
some
Monday.
wine. We'll have some
Have
wine.
wine.
There'll be some wine.
We'll have some
Probably
fun.
charcuterie.
Yeah. Very good.
Great.
Right, I'll be-
Thank you,
I'll be-
folks.
I'll be-
Thank you
Have a
all.
good evening. See you soon.